I'll be talking about how to overcome the top 9 hospitality online guest acquisition challenges in 2025. Basically, ads that you use to acquire guests. Let's just get started directly. If you are running ads and then you're spending thousands per month on ads, even millions, that depends. Well, you are likely going through one of these problems, and this is based on my research, how to fix them, the causes first of all, and how to fix them. And surprisingly, a lot of these problems are just fixed with enough testing, enough testing, faster testing, just testing in general. All right, the first one is, of course, ad fatigue and low engagement. This will happen. The first reason why it could happen is because there's repetitive ad content. In this case, if you're running the same ads over and over, because they're working, because that what works, you have to keep running that. And if it's the same copy, the same offers, that can kind of cause your target audience to kind of be used to it, desensitized a little bit to it, and they might get bored or frustrated from it. This might not happen if you're able to test with different formats. It could be the same ad, the same winning format, the same copy, but just it could be the same ad content, the same maybe different format, maybe on the video, maybe on the picture, or maybe on the professional picture, or maybe a less professional picture. That all depends, and all of this is just how do you find out about this is with testing. So you have to just keep testing. Like I said, surprisingly, a lot of these problems are just going to be fixed with testing. But of course, when you have to test a lot of creative, it gets very much expensive very quickly because it adds up. That is why we have AI. But we're going to speak about that a little later. Let's go to target audience overlap. This is if your ads are shown too frequently to the same group of people, especially when you're targeting a narrow audience. Facebook is actually coming up with a solution for this. In the new updates, Meta just says that you are going to be able to simply just tell Meta what type of people you are targeting, and then you have to tell them how much money you're ready to spend, and then spend that, and it will just get you those results. Which is actually good news. Which is actually some good news when it comes to advertisement, because then that means the Meta platform already has everything fixed, so you would not be needing to emphasize a lot more on target audience. So because they also be making the creatives for you, but we're not there yet. Even in this case, to fix it, it's just testing. How do you know which one is better suited for your target audience? That depends on what is your goal now. Are you trying to expand out of your target audience, and do they actually like this type of messaging? The only way to find out about this is by testing once again. Third, poorly defined targeting. This also just has to do with targeting, like I said, when you overlap and when it's poorly targeting. If you're not narrowing it enough, or if it's too broad, maybe if you're choosing the wrong demographic. This is something that could rarely happen when it's like a business that is very efficient, running at higher levels of expenditure, like a lot more money being spent to ads. But I would assume that the owner, if you are the owner of such a business, you're probably not spending all your time on ads. You probably have a team that is there to take a look at it. But this is also something that you have to, of course, always keep your hands on, because this is how you get people into your business, and there is no business without the people who come in. If your ads are not shown to the people who are likely to convert, then the engagement would naturally be low. If you are a cat person and then you're being showed dog videos, the engagement will be low. This is not something that you will find interesting. Once again, to solve it, you just need more testing. And of course, like I said, it might get expensive, but that's why we have AI. I'm going to show you. Anyway, the fourth reason, add creative quality. Low quality visuals, that doesn't necessarily mean the quality of the creative on itself, because we also see that ugly ads perform very good because they look a lot more authentic. And the quality here really means that, is it the right ad for the right person, because the right ad is just able to grab attention and just blend into the platform. So mostly if I'm talking about Meta or TikTok ads, for example, on TikTok, the ads that do the best are the ones that are just shot on the phone, for example. So if your approach was to shoot with a professional camera, professional team, It might turn out well for different platforms, but for TikTok, it's mostly phone because it has to be able to blend in with the feed. People swiping should just be able to get to your ad and, oh, okay, this is maybe what I need, and then go to it. This is also something that you already know as a business owner who runs this and spends thousands, hundreds of thousands per month on ads. You should be knowing this, so I'm not teaching you anything here. But even for this, the best way to find out what is the sweet spot when it comes to creative quality that works best for you is through, once again, testing. 5, lack of variety in ad formats. Again, there's only going to be one way to solve this is by testing. If you find one winning ad and one winning format, let's call it static. We could actually very much implement different sorts of static images for that winning ad, and then this will allow us, when we're working with you, to actually just test faster, find different ways to milk the same only ad that is actually working, and then not get to ad fatigue as quick, because now we have different formats of the same ad, for example, so you could, and my best way to test this is, before we also make like video ads, we always just use static images. We see which one work, and then from there you can move on to video. Oh, unclear call to action. This is also like a rookie mistake that I see on this company, your type of company that, for example, spends a lot on ads. Like, you would lose a lot more engagement, and the ad will fatigue quicker if the call to action is not powerful enough. If you want them to book a table, just say so. Or better yet, if you want to find out what really works, once again, testing. You can have one ad set that works well. You could test a few different call to action, and after that you can find out which one works the best, when it comes to click-through rate, and if you have your own KPIs, to find out which one is actually turning people a lot more than the others. And what you do when you find it, you stick to it, and the only way to find it is by, again, testing. Overly sales driven content, that's also something that is if that happens when you are not mixing ads with entertainment. In today's world, when it comes to social media, for example, the people who are winning are the people who are not only selling but entertaining as well. So you could have a mix of sales driven content and social media content that is funny, that people get to interact to, and you could use the interactions between the potential guests with your channels to actually create bookings, create sales through DMs, for example, through comments. That is also something that is unfortunately neglected. Even though hard selling is not bad because it's selling, still part of selling, but still there should always be something near it, some value that people get from you. Or if it's like a solution based, like a stay or something for, let's say, professionals, then you should be able to give them a little bit of value or a little bit of education before they actually get to the point where they have to buy from you, if that makes sense. And also, the best way to know this, to be able to track which works and which doesn't work, is, again, testing. Poor timing or frequency of ads. If you're showing ads too frequently or at the wrong times, that can lead to oversaturation. I don't even need to tell you this, but you know that, for example, if you are running an ad for the winter, you might need to start running that ad like pretty much near the winter, unless you are selling something that takes like a lot more time to convince, because in general, it would take people to be exposed to an ad or to creative about 6 to 9 times before they make a purchasing decision. It's very important to see the timing for, and sometimes you cannot control the timing, but sometimes you can. You cannot control the timing because people have lives, things can happen, things can get in the way, and then they might not end up buying at that time. But if you are always the one that is in front of them when they are actually ready to make the buying decision, well, then you come up on their mind, and then they buy from you, which is also a good thing. But when you're showing ads frequently at the wrong times, that can lead to oversaturation. So the audiences could just become annoyed. If you are, when somebody lost a relative and then they see an ad from this, that could, it could be those situations. But also, The best way to find out about what is the best timing when it comes to certain offers is, once again, testing. But these will take a lot more time to actually map it correctly, because uh, in this case, it might take like a year to map correctly what ads perform better at what times, if those results need to be replicated for the following year. But I'm pretty sure you already have a system like this where you have a folder where a lot more ads that you used in the past are stored, and then depending on whatever times they perform best and whatever times they don't perform. Failure to optimize ads for platforms. It is very important that you know what types of platforms that you are running your ads on. If you are master at one platform, it is better to have a little bit of mastery in all of those platforms. If you are running on TikTok, on Meta, on Google, the way you have to run those ads is very, very different. On TikTok, for example, it's very good if you're running a video type of ad, that the video is shot mostly with the phone, because then it can literally naturally blend in with the feed, and then people won't just scroll past, because that's mostly for Gen Z, where they are scrolling and then they will come on your ad, and then they probably won't realize it's an ad, because people have the tendency of just swiping through when they see it's an ad. But if the ad is able to catch their attention well enough, then they might not swipe, they will stay longer and then find out what is this actually, what is this ad about. That's why it's very important to optimize ads depending on the platform that you are running the ad on. If they don't perform well, and mostly something that I really realize is ads that will perform very, very well on TikTok will tend to perform well on the other platforms. But some ads that perform well on Meta don't necessarily perform well on TikTok. And there's actually like TikTok ads library, just like on Facebook, where you can actually check what types of ads are working depending on conversion. And you could also just use them for inspiration, and that actually works, because then you're able to track what converts and what doesn't. Misaligned offer and messaging. That's a no-brainer. You already know what this is. If the ad message or offer isn't aligned with the audience current needs, they're not gonna buy. This is not something new. Might take a little bit of this can also lead to low engagement, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be conversions. The conversion might end up happening, but could be at a lower rate, because engagement also helps diminish your click per cost, which is very good, Just find the offer relevant at that time. So also the best way to find out what is relevant at whatever time is to just keep testing. Following areas like inconsistent brand voice. This is something that a lot of high earners don't typically face as problems, because high earners, when it comes to hospitality brands, they tend to stick to the same type of voice. McDonald's, for example, where their burgers, all their ads just look the same. Everything is very consistent, and there's a reason why. Because if they don't match, then the audience doesn't feel confident or connected to the brand in a way that they're less likely to engage, because then there's some discrepancy between this message and that message. If this message says 3 plus 3 equals 6, and then the same company is talking about, no, actually 3 plus 3 equals 7, then it doesn't really make sense, and then that also will lower the level of engagement. So it's very important to have like a consistent tone, and a good way to make this happen is by having a folder where all the fonts, messaging, any types of creative that has ever been created is stored, so that when you are creating new creatives, then you can refer to the type of folder that you kept, where you could always take a look at how it was done before, so that the messaging is kept consistent and uniform. Oh, this one is a good one. Inadequate retargeting strategies. Retargeting is mostly when you fail to close at first, and then this time you are showing them different types of ads just to rebuild some worth in them and make sure you can close them at a later time. If you are failing to implement or refine your retargeting strategies, that can really result in your ads showing to the same people, and maybe those people that were not interested, let's assume those people were interested but in the way there's a way that you could use a strategy that is very much very much suited to rebuild trust and end up closing those people. So if the first ads that I saw was just hard sell, maybe the second ad will be like a little bit of education, a webinar, or that depends on the type of offer that you are running, you know. But a strategy is very important, and also here, finding the winning strategy is also just once again testing. The other cause of something else that could cause ad fatigue or low engagement could just be like it could just be ad clutter, you know. Everybody's bombarded with ads every day. You see ads across multiple channels, YouTube, here, Facebook, no. Maybe it's just too much, and the market could be oversaturated. That is why it is very important to stand out, you know, to find out what works, what doesn't, what times, what frequency, and all those metrics to be able to map them. Once again, if you are not adapting to changing trends, sometimes that could also lead to ad fatigue and low engagement. So when it comes to seasons, new customer behaviors, you have to be able to track that effectively with testing once again, and then using testing, using what you learn from the testing to actually implement it in the next campaigns that your company is running. If your ads feel outdated, disconnected from current trends, then audiences will just lose interest, and the overall engagement will decrease. So it's very important that you are running the ads depending on the seasonality, and the best way to know what works is to just keep testing. But last reason would be if you don't understand or if you underestimate emotional connection when it comes to your ads. Ads that connect to people emotionally will tend to sell more, because primarily when it comes to selling and buying, people are not logical. They are emotional. They are kind of like irrational, because they will buy from how they feel, not really how they think and what is actually right to do in that case, but they just buy because they feel that way. They feel like you connect with them, your ad or whatever messaging that you're putting to connects to them. So that's also a very important thing to look at. And what's the best way to kind of test, I was about to say test, I already said it. What's the best way to kind of find out what works when it comes to connecting with your audience? Of course, when you do some market research, you already have some ads that have worked before. Still, you gotta test. That's the best way to do it. Let's talk about a second challenge when it comes to online guest acquisition. That's rising cost of digital advertising. The platforms are getting more expensive. These are some of the causes and how I think it is possible to overcome those. First one could be increased competition for ad space. So because more businesses are online, invest in digital ads, you see that the demand will increase, and because the demand increase, the price will increase because there's much more demand. So because businesses are trying to fight for attention on those platforms, Google, Meta, TikTok, whatever, where you also run your ads, you see that it's just gonna keep rising. It's just gonna keep rising because there's more demand, and there's limited or less ad inventory. So that will just cost more. That is why when testing, in this case, it is very efficient to use AI. The way we use AI with creating static images to test the ads, and then only take the winning ones to turn them into other formats, So that's like a very cost-effective way to do it. But of course, with the new algorithm change that Meta is proposing, that you could just be able to tell Meta what you want, in terms of goal, and set a budget, and then they just get you those results. That will be a game changer. That is a game changer. But until we get it, we can always just still use AI, A very powerful tool, ChatGPT. I'm going to get into that at the end of the video if you just keep watching. When it comes to platform, the algorithm, when it comes to the platform algorithm changes, they change because they have to change. There's competition. Platforms like Facebook, Google, Instagram, they can change because now, for instance, if they change because they want to prioritize a certain type of content for advertisers, maybe they want to adjust. They want to adjust their bids or whatever. the change could lead to, when those companies are actually doing those changes, they want more cost per clicks and whatever. They're trying to get more impression. They're trying to build the tools behind the tools that work behind the scene to actually get you the result that you want. And when there's those changes, of course, you have to understand how they work. And a way to overcome this is by using a way to overcome this, or to just be informed on how those changes can affect your ads, is simply by using an automation that will scan every time there's an algorithm change and what it means. And then the same automation will actually give you in details, or just a summary of what the changes mean, and also give you advice on how to actually implement this advice. Give you advice on how to implement these changes, the summary of the changes, and how this could potentially increase your click-through cost, could potentially increase your conversions. The second reason, the third reason why digital advertising is now rising, is because now platforms are saturated. There's more businesses that advertise on popular digital platforms, and everybody's on platforms. Everybody's on social media. Everybody's on Facebook. Everybody's looking for something on Google. So because there's increased competition, the platform is saturated, and the costs are just gonna keep rising. The impact on this will be like, with ad space becoming more competitive, businesses will have to bid higher. For example, with this new change that Meta proposed, where you would need to just tell Meta what your goal is, and then just tell them how much you want to pay them, and then to get you those results. So that means to stay on top, you have to be the one who pays the most. Not necessarily have the best product, or the best day, or the best place, or whatever, but just pay the most. Then that means it's overall increasing your cost. But of course, if there's a high ROI when it comes to how much you pay, then it doesn't really matter, right? Increased bidding competition. That's the same where there's a lot more businesses that are advertising online. Now, because you are advertising online, you're bidding against each other for keywords, or for the top place, and for leads, for guests. Then because there's now increased bidding, then there's more costs incurring, because then you have to pay more to be on top. This is also something that is it's very likely to happen. It's like, you could actually understand, because there's a higher demand when it comes to that. That is why the costs are increasing. And a good way to overcome this is to couple up your ads with in-house marketing, so email, text marketing, social media, those things that will cost you typically less, but will also have higher returns than just ads in general. So that's like a two-sword strategy, where you are basing the first one to just ads. The second one is in-house, and in-house can have like multiple layers. So you'd have social media, you have email, text marketing, you have referral programs, like those type of strategies that you can use in-house, that will cost you a lot less than just the ads. But those things can also just be used from the guests that you got through the ads, and then you'll be able to stretch their life value using different methods of using different methods of extracting value from them, or giving them value, Also, because the digital companies are evolving, they expect high quality, they want creative things. If you're not keeping up with this, you're not putting the right content out, then it will cost you a lot more to get to the same type of people that you used to, with a different type of creative. So a good rule of thumb to keep this as cheap as possible, or as cost effective as possible in this case, is to just test with static images first, and which is why we have AI, until Meta itself would be able to propose the creatives. You could always just use AI to test, and then be able to recreate videos, because videos tend to cost a lot more when it comes to producing them, or even videos could also be produced with AI, and that's also very cost effective. But then the testing that could be done as fast as possible could always start with static images. When it comes to ad platform features and tools, new features. It also comes down to algorithm changes. And a good way to fix this is, like I said, is to set up an automation that will watch over any new feature, any new tool, because every time those new tools are released, the platforms themselves will release like a statement or like an explanation of how this could potentially help your business. And if you are a business owner that is running and spending a lot of money on ads, you probably don't have time to keep up with all of this. And if maybe your team, the team that you have hired to take a look at this, is not able to also follow everything that is going out, then a good way to do this is to set up an automation that will watch over any new updates, give a summary of that update, and give an advice on how to actually implement that update into your day-to-day ads. This kind of what will be very helpful. Cause number 7 could be rising consumer demand and behavior shift. Because people now are spending a lot more time online, well, businesses like your business are, I mean, you kind of realize that it's now very important to advertise online and to reach those people who are your potential guests, and then to get more of them. So because there's this higher demand, the platforms themselves can also see that there's higher demand, and then because of higher demand, of course, there's increase of pricing, and there's like the costs are just going higher. And a good way to kind of keep this low is to I already spoke about this in the first two causes. A good way to keep this lower is to have an in-house. Of course, running ads could also be in-house, but could have like an offline way of. I wouldn't say offline, but I would say an another way to kind of nurture the people that you already get, because that's just something that I would talk further down the line. With the technique is just using email, text marketing, social media as well, but not paid ads, like entertainment, to kind of reach the same type of people, but not having to pay for the ads. So this is like a multiple touch point type of thing where you can reach people through your ads, and they will see your social media, and then that will result in a sale, or in them booking a table or booking a stay or coming to visit your restaurant or cafe. Seasonality and of demand also, on holidays people will tend to spend a lot more, so that will drive, of course, the cost higher. And this is also something that you already know this, and it's not a bad thing, because around those holidays people are actively looking to pay more, and during those peak times then you have to bid a little higher to keep your business in front of everybody. And a good way to know what actually works best and how to be in front of the right person at the right time is testing. You have to test as often as possible. You have to test different offers, different creatives, to see which one works depending on depending on the season. And whenever you find a winning thing, you have to flip it as much as possible. So you have to do different formats of the same ad that ran, and then you could just change the creative, change the message just a little bit. And this is also just part of the testing phase, where you find out, you map actually to what point the ad works or doesn't. Changes in consumer privacy laws. There's also something that you cannot really keep up entirely with. For example, in the Netherlands here, you notice that there's always some new law, there's always something changing, there's always something. A good way to keep up with this is also just to set up like an automation that will watch over anything that has to do with like privacy laws or GDPR in Europe, just to find out, hey, what is this new law? It is a new law, okay, what does this new law mean? Like a summary of it, and advice on how to implement it directly into your business, so that the cost of these new changes will be minimized as much as possible. Reason number 10 will be ad fatigue and banner. That goes down to the first reason that we spoke about. This is a cause when it comes to driving the digital advertising costs higher, but it's also one of the causes that I spoke about before. When it comes to ad fatigue, people are just overexposed to ads, so you know what the impact as leads will be, like higher cost, because now if you don't now optimize your creatives, or then this will just cost you a lot more than possible and a lot more than necessary. And this is why you also have to just keep testing, because then you will be able to refresh your ads even if you keep the same um, messaging or offer, but you're able to just produce it in a different format, or you could do an ugly ad, you could do a us versus them ad. That depends. And the only way to actually find out what is working is, again, through testing. Uh, the next cause is ad blockers. A lot of people don't want to see ads. I don't want to see ads a lot of times. When I'm on YouTube, I have YouTube Premium because I don't want to see ads. So you are missing out on those type of people that, for example, don't want to see ads. So if you, in that case, if people don't already want to see ads. So if they're not seeing the ads that can actually grab their attention, and a good way to produce the highest qualities of ads that is possible, you could always use AI to check to make sure you are testing them first before you can implement like a higher cost. And sometimes not even necessary, because for example on TikTok, the phone is the only thing that you need. I talked about this, but I wanted to actually show what is this the type of ads that we're able to make with AI. Like this looks pretty much real, you know, like this one as well. Uh, this one, it could be changed, of course, but AI is really getting there where it's super realistic, looks very human. Someone could look at this and just think, "Oh, I actually want to eat this." Yeah, so this is kind of how it works, but you get the point. When it comes to the last cause of why this could cost more, of course, it's economic factors. If you are most likely advertising in the Netherlands, it's going to cost you a lot more than if you are advertising in some other country. But of course, when it comes to hospitality, it's a bit difficult because we're going for the market that is near us, and the market is the Dutch market, which is of course a lot more expensive because you know it's Europe and everything when it as opposed to other markets. But at the end, if you're just able to turn to have like a high ROI, then it doesn't really matter. But then there's always a way to make it as cost effective as possible. In that case, I think testing also could be something that could be used very, very much easily when it comes to just using AI to make a lot of different types of creatives and just test them in a way that is very effective, and that you don't need to hire big teams to make sure you are actually getting this test out and getting the results back or feedback. The third challenge when it comes to online guest acquisition systems is targeting the right audience. This is actually there's a lot of reasons, a lot of causes why this could be, but this is gonna very much easily be solved because of this new update that Facebook is coming with. That way you can just tell them what is your goal, and if you pay enough, they will just get you that. But we need to look at how you are actually targeting those people. That it really depends on what is your goal, if it's long term, short term. Long term should always be based on locals because they are the people that are most likely able to come back a lot more times than the non-locals, the tourists. So when you're targeting, then you have to also look at that. If you don't have like a persona, if it's not clear enough, then the ads are not gonna reach the right person. If you're not testing, the ads are not gonna reach the person. If you're not adapting to behavioral shift, the ads are not gonna reach the right person. And the one that I actually want to emphasize a lot more on is if you focus too much on demographic instead of psychographics. So instead of just targeting like gender, age, location, you have to more likely invest more in like values, interest, lifestyle to reach that emotional connection that I was talking about on the other challenge. Something else you also could be using lookalike. So for example, when you had like a few campaigns that actually worked well, or people that are visiting your website, you could actually give that input information to Meta or Google or TikTok to kind of get you the same kind of people. But this actually works more to create the same type of result. So if you are actually trying to grow out of it, then this is not very useful to use this. But Meta is already working on fixing it. So that is something that's going to be fixed very, very early on. The fourth challenge has to do with attribution. So how do you find out which which marketing set actually got you the sale, because people are buying not only by being exposed one time to your creative. So it could happen that they saw an ad, then they checked your website, and they checked your social media, and then they checked your LinkedIn page, and then they bought from you. So it it is just increasingly becoming a lot harder to actually track what made the sale. Hence the attribution challenge here. You could see that, like I said, there's multiple touch points. People will check all of your pages before they buy from it. For example, they will check your Google reviews before they come to your place. There's a cross-device and cross-platform behavior. So when people are maybe engaging with your ads on a laptop, it could be different. Maybe they're less patient than when they're on their phone scrolling, because when you're scrolling, it's just you want to do it quickly. Um, when it comes to attribution window and timing, so for example, when a conversion happens related to the ad, and then direction is important, you are thinking, in this case, where an ad is able to convert quick enough, you are not able to attribute correctly what made actually, or what turned out to be the most valuable reason that turned that sale. So that's also a challenge that you will face when it comes to attribution. Um, and unfortunately, the other businesses also will have a strategy of last click attribution model, where they do not take in consideration the multiple touch points. They will just attribute the sale to the last click, or maybe that's just the last ad or the last messaging that closed it. But it's just like an overall thing. And nowadays it's very prominent, where someone will see a messaging here and go check out this, go check out that, then they'll decide to make the purchasing decision. Something else that it's has to do with attribution challenges, like if you don't have a unified customer data, very important to have a CRM and email marketing tools that will all be in one area. So for example, if you're running ads, Facebook ads, Meta ads, Instagram ads, Google ads, TikTok ads, whatever type of ads that you're running, that you are able to, for example, get in one folder all the results that you're getting from that. If you have a CRM, for example, you have emails, names, and whatever of your guests, you have to be able to get it in one file, where every conversation with them, every touch point is the same. Then you kind of able to attribute what made what, what did what. Because if you're not able to do that, then it becomes a lot harder to actually attribute what converted and what didn't. And that's very important if you are result driven, and if you are data backed, you are really trying to track the data. Then it's very important to know what made what. So hence the attribution, to actually find out what are the points that need to be touched, remembered, so that the conversion is very much likely to happen. Different attribution depends also across platforms, and like you can see here that it could be a little harder from those platforms to attribute what works and what doesn't work. And in this case, to solve it, it's just like a KPI thing. So you have to, before you start a campaign, or after you start your campaign, you have to set the right type of KPIs when it comes to how much you spend and what is your ROI. And in this case, if it's just like a nurture campaign, like basically what is your goal? And I think that's the best way to kind of attribute the success of a campaign or not. But in general, when it comes to fixing the attribution challenges, there's about 3 things that you have to do. You have to have like a unified CRM, where you have all connection with all the touch points with your potential guests. So you can see if one user viewed your website, left a comment on your Instagram, read an email, saw an ad. In general, this is how you would solve all your attribution challenges. I could also go through all of these problems when it comes to limited conversion, tracking, all of that. But the solution is basically that if you want to be able to track what made what, then you need a unified CRM system that will be able to track all of that. Like I said, did this person read our email? Did this person check our website? Did this person leave a comment on our Instagram? That is very important when it comes to attributing the success of a campaign. Moving to brand loyalty and retention ad, the biggest way to solve this before we even go on is to just, what I would do is, we need to have like a file, and the file will have to contain all types of messaging that the business ever has put out. So Instagram posts, LinkedIn, X, whatever platforms that is out there that has content from the business. This is very important because then you will see that the messaging is pretty much aligned. So this will cause less friction, and you won't face things like lack of personalization, inconsistent messaging, or complicated loyalty programs. So like a very very unified messaging. This is the solution to brand loyalty and retention ads. If you Some of these problems are a lot more have a lot more to do with just customization or having a lot more data about your customer. So if you're not able to leverage customer data effectively, this could also cost you. When it comes to retention ads, if you don't leverage your customer data well, you also fail to build emotional connections. This also turns down your conversion rate. If you lack exclusivity or VIP programs, for example, that depends on the types of businesses that you run. But a lot of people would also be more sold if other people couldn't have what they have. So that's also something to look at. If your ads are irrelevant, that also could kill your loyalty. If you fail to recognize and reward loyal customers or guests with something, then they might feel undervalued and probably leave you because of that. So that's also a challenge. If you like, so this is, I cannot even stress it enough. You already know this. I don't even need to talk about this. But if you have poor customer support and experience, and you are not tracking it, you're not giving feedback, you're not testing, it is very difficult to also keep those guests coming. I had an issue recently with a bank where my limit was something, and the way they handled the situation just made me want to quit the bank. It's not necessarily the owner of the bank who did something wrong, but because the training and all that, you have to be able to do what, to give the best customer support, and then find out if I decide to quit this bank, for example. Maybe they'll be able to track, okay, what made him quit. They could send me like a survey to find out why did I quit the bank, and then I'll probably explain if I want to. So that's also something to look at. If you have inadequate follow-up or communication with your guest, then a lot of businesses don't even have this communication in place, where they have their information, but there's no talking after that, which is also huge chunk of revenue that is just left out to dry. If you also over rely on discounts, on long run, that's killer. You have to be able to set yourself apart from just discounts with different type of offers. So us versus them, or exclusive this, or there's just so many ways to go about marketing this, that I don't see why businesses will just over rely on this. Maybe this has worked and got you so far, but in this case, I think there's always a way to diversify it, and the best way to find out about this is to just test. If you also lack like meaningful incentives for people to come back, if it's irrelevant to them, then that's a challenge. You're not able to close as much as you would like to. As a hospitality business owner, it's also very important that you don't ignore bad feedback. You also always have to be there to check why did you get the feedback, and also to be able to kind of implement the result of the feedback into the next guest. And a good way to do this is also to use an automation that will collect the feedback, whether good or bad. If good, post it on your Google reviews or something, and if bad, use it to actually improve your services, and maybe let them know about how you fixed the issue that they had. And this is something that is very good, that it can help you increase loyalty to your business. If you also focus too much on acquisition and not retention, that's a problem, because now you are all the time acquiring, because acquiring will cost you a lot more than retaining, if done right. If you are retaining with the right strategies, the right offers, the right tools, then you're always able to at the end of the day, have it more cost effective, because then you're not paying anymore. They are paying you now to give them value. But in the beginning, you have to pay them to get to them, and then you can decide how you actually want to entertain the relationship between you and them. Lack of trust in the brand. This also really happens when the messaging is not consistent, if it's not transparent. Dutch people really care about, for example, the planet and everything. If you are doing something that is very sustainable, why not include it in your messaging? That's also something that you could do, and to find out what actually works, you could do a lot of testing there. Don't necessarily have to do testing through ads. You could do it through email, through text messages. It's also particularly works well. These already spoke about these. Gonna move to the next reason. I think Pluff already spoke about it. If you also going through one of these challenges when it comes to limited data for personalization, then you're probably going through one of those. The causes could be multiple. You could take a look at all of these, but the best way to fix this is to just have the best data collection mechanism. With this, could be QR code, could be just through your booking system. You have to literally let them know that you collected their data and why you use it. Maybe be very upfront about why you need their data, just to make sure you are aligned with these rules. Use sometimes landing pages that align with the messaging that is on the ads or your social media. The best way to do this is also just simply to have it in a folder where the messaging, the fonts, everything is written down there to make sure it all matches when it's time to use them. And when you have those collection mechanism in place, then you also have to make like a very complete profile of your guest, because incomplete ones will have like a very big impact when it comes to the metrics, engagement metrics, because then you don't know who you are actually talking to at the moment. You're not talking to the right person because their profile is incomplete. So if this person is 45 and then they're receiving messaging for 25-year-olds, then this doesn't work, And if you have a shortage of qualitative data, and because you are focusing a lot more like on page views and that's not very qualitative, you probably have to focus more on the why and things like that, which you can't really count. It's not, you can't really count it, but you can actually just assume, or better yet, ask. Something that works well is surveys. You test which one people respond to, and this at the end also comes down to a little bit of testing. But surveys do work really well when it comes to finding out why a buying decision happened, and it's literally coming right from the guest who bought in. So this is very one-to-one, and this is very as well effective. Big challenges. One of the causes is if you are also not tracking your customer lifetime value. You have to be able to find out how often they came back, maybe using their card, how often they paid, or have like a system on your loyalty program that will allow them to buy using the card. And this is very important when it comes to tracking. So how often they've bought and how much they actually bringing back in. If you invest in actually tracking how often they're back with you, and you can see that there's a lot more causes when it comes to these. When you don't have advanced data analytics tools, or if it's not in one place where you could literally integrate and then take a look at all of them in one place, and it's very well organized. This is also very not good. This is also a problem when it comes to it's not very effective. I mean, but a good way to solve this is to just have the CRM as well that is able to first is to have a very good data collection mechanism to complete profiles of your guests, to have complete ones that you actually know who they are. When it comes to getting data back from them, you can also literally just ask them, explain to them why it's important that you know those things. They will care a lot more if you explain to them. If your data is also not of high quality, then you cannot really use it. So to solve it is just to keep adding data and improving it and cleaning the data as well. That's something else you could do on top of all these strategies. And The eighth reason that would have to do with saturation of promotional offers. Because everybody is giving a promotion, then promotion don't really have the weight that they used to. So that this will result in a saturation of promotional offers, and they will just stop working. So a good way to fix this is also to just do a lot of testing of different types of offers, because it's not only promotion. You can, like I said, you could give us versus them, one benefit, one feature, or one review. There's always a lot more ways to do ads that won't just need you to give away something, but you could just because what really matters is that you're in front of your guest, and then that you present yourself as the best alternative ever. So here the best way to fix it, I think, is just to test a lot more different types of offers and different types of creatives, and in a way that is very effective. You could always just use AI with that. All the causes of this could also be here, and of course I could always link the file so that you could take a look at this and also just take a look at the impact and all that. The last reason could be seasonality in tourism. If you depend on this, this is a very delicate situation to be in, because then if your business is based in a tourism area, when tourists are not there, or when the season is not the best, then you tend to lose a large chunk of your guest base. So I think here the best way to fix it is to just set a better long-term goal. And in general, long-term goals, when you set them, I think is best work when it comes to locals. So at first you should be able to target locals first, and then when it comes to targeting tourists, you have to do a long-term as well. And the way this work is, you have to start running your ads way before the time will come, because then there are few people who will decide on the location to go like few months, maybe a year or 2 years before they go to that place. And how do you make sure that you are capturing those people that haven't decided yet, or are still thinking about making a decision, or are still in that thinking phase, is to run the ads way before the time comes. So of course it also just comes down to testing. This though is a testing that will take a lot more time, because the period is a lot longer when it comes to tourists making a decision. But when it comes to locals, it could be done like faster, because it's a direct feedback, because it's just people who live locally there. When it comes to tourists who, for example, plan long ahead, there will be that will take a lot more time to just kind of find out what actually works. But for immediate tourists, it could also be very quick. But in the long run, it should be based on the locals.